Hi.
Hi. So we are here. We're doing Topic Tuesday. It's a little bit early because it's a Saturday, but we're so happy to have Karla. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi, I'm Karla MartinezdeSalas. I grew up in El Paso and now live in Mexico City. I'm the editorial director or editor-in-chief of Vogue Mexico and Latin America.
Yeah, so we're going to talk to her about more and how her journey and everything to help inspire all of us. And stay tuned, watch the YouTube, and we'll catch you guys on Tuesday. Thanks. Bye. So we're here with Karla. I really want to know just how you got started, where your journeys, took place, and what inspired you to do everything that you did.
Well, I got started, I would say, over 20 years ago when the world was obviously a really different place. I was at the University of Arizona. I knew I always wanted to work in fashion or do something fashion related, but I always thought that meant being a buyer or, working in advertising and working in media. I didn't know that there was a whole editorial world that was yet to be discovered. And I remember a friend of mine at the University of Arizona said, "Oh, I'm doing an internship at Nicole Miller that my mom helped me get." And I was like, "Oh God, how am I going to get my internship? I don't know anyone. My dad's a doctor. My mom's a housewife. Who's she going to call? No one." So I started looking through magazines and I picked up the phone. And I called AFA, which is the company that owns Moschino, Alberta Ferretti, Narciso Rodriguez at the time, Jean-Paul Gaultier at the time. And I picked up the phone and I called and I asked if they had any internships in New York in the summer. And the woman was like, "Actually, we do. Can you come up for an interview?" And I was like, "Of course I can come up for an interview." "Well, when do you need me there?" "No, we'll come up in April." And I called my parents and was like, "Okay, I'm going to go to New York and do an interview." And they were like, "You're going where? What?" I mean, it was completely another time. So I flew up, I stayed with a family friend and interviewed to work at AFA during the summer. And that summer I found an apartment on 80th and Madison with a friend of mine, also through the classified ads. There was not the internet, there was no worlds away from Airbnb. So we rented this apartment that had disgusting mice in it. It was in a really, really nice area, but was totally disgusting. And we lived there and I would go to work every morning and, I was a buyer's intern. So I got to see the side of, the buyers coming in, the stores coming in to see the collections and how to sell certain lines. And that was really interesting. But then an editor came in and I was like, "Oh, what is she doing?" And they were like, "Oh, she came to pull. She works at a magazine called Women's Wear and W magazine, and she's coming in to pull for a celebrity." And I was like, "Wow, I need to do that." So the following summer, I picked up the phone, called W. A woman by the name of Stella Angelakos answered the phone, and she was like, "Of course, come up for an interview." And I got the interview that following summer to work at W, which was really exciting. And in the end, Stella Angelakos ended up hiring me for my job after I graduated from college and after I moved to Paris. She ended up hiring me in New York for another job. So everyone you meet kind of comes into your life for a reason, and I always think of that.
Right. And you lived in Paris for how long?
After I graduated from college at the University of Arizona, I moved to Paris. And there, I have to say that a friend helped me because I really didn't know anyone. And she was like, she was working at a modeling agency at the time. She's like, "Do you want to work and be an intern at a modeling agency?" I'm like, "Of course, I've never done that before." So I interned at IMG Models when IMG was not the huge conglomerate that it was. And also, a lot of the people that I worked for there are still working at IMG in New York, which is always interesting to run into those people. And I was there for 4 months, and then my dad was like, "You either have to get something paid or you have to come home." So I interned next at Hearst magazines, and I think they paid me 5,000 francs a month, which is $250, but it was something.
Yeah.
And I got to work with the editors at Harper's Bazaar, Cosmo, Marie Claire, Town and Country, and House and Garden. No, not House and Garden. House Beautiful.
That's cool to hear, because I think what I try to tell everybody that comes in is that a lot of the jobs that I've done have been, I never got paid for them, but it's just really wanting to just get that extra growth, and when you're talking to your dad and stuff, what sticks with you, or what?
I think one of the most important things that he was a doctor. He came to the U.S., barely spoke Spanish. He got accepted to do a residency program in Florida. It was not the place where I don't know if he would have chose that immediately, but he chose to move to Orlando as a Mexican immigrant, didn't speak English, was this new resident on board, and he was like, you have to eat a lot of, shit, before you really succeed. And he's like, there will be so many people that will want to pull you down, and there'll be people that aren't helpful and that you don't like, and you have to work with them, and you have to kind of put your right foot forward and put on a good attitude and a good face if you're interested in pursuing your dreams, because sometimes pursuing those dreams comes along with hard work and things that you don't want to do.
Right. I mean, I still feel like I have a long journey to go for where I want to be, and I think that I'm gonna have to do a lot of that. A lot of that, and I've dealt with it. And the newcomers with opening my shop have been wonderful, but sometimes it's like they think it's magic, and you're gonna
a lot of people think that they're doing you a favor, and that kind of attitude. I mean, it's a very, I hate to say it, but because I don't like to classify people by any means, but a lot of people say it's very millennial. The way that I think generation to generation it's very different, because you have things that are a little bit more at your fingertips. And I think being a daughter of a first generation American, my parents came here and they worked hard, and my dad was a doctor and always said, like, listen, I'm going to leave you your education. That's it. I'm not going to leave you a huge inheritance. There's nothing I can leave you. You didn't go to medical school. I can't leave you my practice.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out. And I think that's something that was really valuable to not just myself, but my brothers and sisters as well, because we kind of just didn't sit back and let someone do things for us.
Yeah, and I think, for me, my mom was the same way. She was just like, you need to do it. I don't know how you're going to do it. Her older sister was, born in Mexico. She was born here, and then, I always am like second generation here in the United States, but it's like I have that background.
Right.
And I'm like, but it wasn't like nothing was given to me. And it's like I have to work for every inch I get. And so again, hearing your story from an outsider or from you now, it's like, I mean, big things can happen,
Yeah.
What would you say was the hardest thing for you?
I think one of the hardest things was, moving to New York. You moved to New York and you're living in this amazing city, but it's a really expensive city. It's a city where, you can feel very lonely, and my family was really far away. When I first moved there, I lived with a few roommates, and I think one of the hardest things for me was learning to manage my money. And I can't say that I'm a big saver, which is obviously a default of mine and something that I wish I would have been better at. But in New York also, you have to work really hard. You're working these long hours, and in, the industry that I chose, it's not, these huge paying jobs. So it was kind of like learning to say, no, I can't go to dinner, and, maybe staying home on a Friday night and stuff like that. And then, my dad passed away when I was 25, and my mom was like, you have to go back, and, you moved there to pursue your dreams, and your dad wouldn't have wanted it any other way. And it was kind of like that year was like between, grieving my father, breaking up with the boyfriend, there's so many things that happen to you, and you're living in this big city where no one cares, and you kind of have to make a family out there for yourself. Luckily, I think I've always worked in places that, where people were very super supportive during that time, and I had really great friends and kind of created my own community. So I think that was obviously one of the biggest challenges that I've had. And, then I moved to Mexico with my husband, who, wanted to pursue one of his dreams, and, we made the decision obviously together. He didn't force me to make it and didn't impose anything on me. He put the options on the table, and we made the decision together. And I think that's something that, as a woman, you get married, you always dream of getting married, and then, with your dream of getting married comes your responsibilities with your husband. And I think one of the most difficult things was saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to put myself to the side, and I'm going to do what I think is going to be better for the family that I want to start. So that was obviously really difficult, and it was really difficult moving to Mexico and having to rely on someone to give me money, and that was hard. And, why is he asking me why I spent this on, $50 at the gas, all those things I think are really,
a marriage, right?
Yeah, a marriage. And, but it's been really great. And then in the end, I ended up getting a job, the job of my dreams. So I think it all worked out really well.
So can you tell us how that?
Yeah.
I mean, because you moved there for your husband.
Yes.
And then
I moved there for my husband, and he had received an offer to open up a Brazilian bank in Mexico. And I was doing some freelance work, and before I left, I had told my boss, Edward Enninful at the time, who was the editor-in-chief of British Vogue, that I was moving, and he said, I'm going to call Jonathan Newhouse, who owns Condé Nast, and he was like, Karla's moving there, if there's any opportunities at Condé Nast. And I knew the team there very well, and had worked with them and respected them in every capacity. And I had no idea that one of the girls was moving to, because she was also getting married. And so they called me, I think in like early May of 2015, I had just moved there, and they said, can you interview with us in August, or can we set up a meeting for August? And then we set up a meeting in August, and then they were like, okay, we want to set up a meeting for November. And I said, well, I was pregnant at the time, and I was going to have my twins. And I said, I might be giving birth around the time in November, but if I'm not, of course, I'd love to meet you. So my twins came early, and on November 23rd, I went to meet with them, and I had just had my daughters, and I couldn't even zip up my skirt from the back, but I went on the interview, and they said, we're interviewing for a position, we can't tell you what it is, but we'll be in touch. And then in January, they offered me the job, and it was the editor-in-chief job of Vogue, Mexico and Latin America, and so kind of worked out perfectly. And I signed my contract in January, and I was supposed to start in May, and then my husband actually ended up losing his job because they closed the bank where he went to work. So kind of the tables turned a bit, and he was like, well, we would be looking for jobs in New York, but you just signed a contract, so we're going to hold off. So that was a really interesting, I guess, reversal of roles that happened.
So your dream came true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what now is like the easiest thing for you to wake up to every day? And I mean, your dreams have come true now. So what do you face on a daily basis?
Well, on a daily basis, we obviously, the magazine is one thing, and then you have the digital part of the magazine, and you have the events part of the magazine, and kind of the brand Vogue, right? Like, what does Vogue mean, and what does Vogue do? So, for example, on Monday when I get back to work in 2 days, we're closing the September issue. We just shot the cover last week, so we'll be closing the September issue. We're going to be doing press on the September issue. What kind of strategy are we going to have? We have an event with Tory Burch in Mexico City on Thursday. So it's always evolving, and then planning our big fashion competition that's called Who's On Next in October, which gives over $10,000 to a young designer in Mexico to help support up and coming talent in Mexico. So that's in October. So there's always something. There's always, whether it's closing the magazine, choosing which designers we want to include in the magazine, what we want to, cover for the following magazine. Then we just got our October cover talent confirmed, what to do with that. We need to interview the person that's on the cover of the November issue. So it's like a different thing every day. And then Thursday we have our event with Tory Burch. So it's a breakfast and a shopping event. So it's like making sure that we have the right people there, making sure that, the coverage that we give. So it's so many moving parts now. It's not, running a magazine is not just the magazine. It's so much more than that.
Yeah. And if you could tell any entrepreneur, anybody, younger or, older, still reaching for their dreams, what would you tell them?
I think that it's important to kind of trust yourself, and don't be afraid to make decisions. I think being decisive is always really important, but also just taking your time to figure out what it is exactly what you want. If you want to start your own business, make sure you research well, make sure you have a business plan. If you want to be a clothing designer, make sure that you know all the steps, such as you design your first collection, and then you get an order from Nordstrom's or what have you, and how do you pay for that production? Things like that. I think just really thinking things through and planning things out, and especially the financial part, I think is really important. And making sure that that you have all the resources necessary and that you've covered all those bases. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you have a partner, define those roles. Define your roles early on before you get in a fight because this person said that she was going to do this but then didn't, or he said she.
And I think that's really good advice because we haven't had that feedback. Everybody always says like jump in and just go for it, but you're right. Sometimes you do need to make those steps and plan it and be consistent.
Yes. I think also, like, if you have an idea, research the idea, take time to figure out, is this idea going to make money? If it's not going to make money, what's the purpose? I think that's all really important, because if you don't go on the idea, it's just an idea, then someone else comes and starts that idea.
Right.
Which, happens so many times.
So many times. We were just talking about that, but yes, it does. And,
but in your case, it's really exciting. I mean, you own your own business and you're able to kind of make your hours and, move at your own pace. And I think it's really important that you do, things like Topic Tuesday and, engage people. And, it's not just about like the salon. It's about so much more than that and what you want to build it.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what, your new image is. It's confidence, beauty, and it's creating your own individual image. And it's not just about being beautiful on the outside, it's really being beautiful on the inside, and we've come across so many wonderful people like yourself. So I'm really happy and thank your day to be here.
Of course, thank you.
If you can think of a quote or maybe a mantra that you're, living on at this exact moment, what would it be?
Ooh, a mantra. Right now I'm just trying to take it like one step at a time, because I have, 2 daughters and, I have this job and I have a husband and, I have to remember, like, just like breathe in and, kind of take it all in, and also, prioritize my time. I think that's like the most important thing. Prioritizing and balancing and, making sure that I don't try and overextend myself. And a lot of times, I grew up always saying like yes to everything. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll go to this. Yes, I'll go to that. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, these are my limits. And, so oftentimes people are like, oh, can you take, this course? And you're like, listen, I would love to, but I have a family, girls starting school, travel for work, travel for personal reasons, that my husband wants to like take me away on a weekend and you can't exactly say no. So I think it's really important to kind of take time for yourself and know your limitations.
Yes. And, again, thank you for, doing Topic Tuesday. It means the world to
of course.
us. And to
another thing that I recently learned is that there's always room to keep learning.
Yes.
We did a course on digital marketing and like all the new kind of wave of digital influence, and I realized how much homework I have on a daily basis. And so with these responsibilities comes my obligation to keep learning, and I think that's always important. And I feel like I hadn't been to a classroom in like 18 years and I missed that feeling, and it's like, but that again comes to taking time for yourself and prioritizing and maybe learning something new.
And what class was that? What class?
That class, it was a master's that they gave us in my office. That was this program called ISD that kind of talks about, everything from, B2B marketing to B2C marketing, and just different, the way that how to learn and how to sell, different platforms that now we're facing. Is like now you're not selling a print edition, but you're selling digital editions, you're selling events, you're selling, it's kind of this whole world.
Yeah, and before we get off, how has media changed your life? I mean, social media has been like...
Yeah, I think, before, even when I was still working at W in New York, a lot of the girls would say, oh, I really want to do this page and this page. And I'm like, you don't have to wait until the page comes out in the magazine. We have a whole website that, that you can transform. And while people don't consume magazines in the same way that they consume digital, and they're looking for different ideas and different things online, there's still like a voice. And it's just in the same way that that I feel like before you used to, you know, to make it in Hollywood, you used to have to like go and audition, and you know, now, you know, you have YouTube celebrity stars. It's amazing. And I feel like that has changed so much. And that's, again, about finding your voice, you know, and finding something that people are interested in and that's relevant. And I feel like that idea, I mean, while I do think that there's a lot of noise, you know, you have to find
your own voice.
You have to find your own voice, and you have to, you know, find your audience. I think that's really important.
Yeah, your own tribe. You know, I think when I started Topic Tuesday, I said, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to tell me no, but I'm going to keep asking. You know, I'm going to keep going, because I think the more empowerment we give each other and other women, I mean, the more it's going to grow. And I'm like, I'll take a no, but I will keep asking.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really important to be persistent, and you know, you can be persistent and respectful at the same time. You know, and I feel like there's so many different people, even here in El Paso, that are doing really cool and interesting things, and you know, that have brought, you know, for example, one-to-one and the workspace. I think that that's something that's really new and that can help people and connect people, and I think that that's always benefits communities and brings people together.
Yeah, the networking, right? Yeah, and you know, just becoming friends. So thank you for doing Topic Tuesday.
Of course, thank you so much.
And you know, stay tuned and keep watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.